French president at the microphone now, delivering a eulogy of Jacques Delors. Let's listen in.
On the 27th of December last year, that was the end of his path, his journey, a journey of life that never, at any turn of the century, played up what was expected. Yes, his life was always going on different paths, away from the main road, uncovering new visions, working with his companions. A life of journeys and currents that can be found in the streets of Ménilmontant, on those lands of Paris and Corrèze in Paris, in places where decisions were made in Clichy, in Brussels, so many capitals of our Europe, and Paris and the Saint-Jacques Street. Those paths laid down a journey of Republican meritocracy. His grandparents were peasants. His mother made hats. His father worked at the Bank of France. And he learned from them to make efforts. He went on these journeys, and those acted as what acted as a compass was his faith, opening himself to others, having a liking for duty before a liking for power. And those strong words from his father, who was mutilated during the First War, and who said, "We have to reconcile." So from the Massif Central to the European Parliament, Jacques Delors never tired of exploring in order for people to reconcile. He was a light ahead of his time. He would find alternatives. He would build bridges, always going to that immutable horizon that was more than anything else for him, human dignity. That was his deep conviction, fed by Catholic thinking from Emmanuel Mounier, between the dictatorship of masses and the imperialism of individualism. There's another way, that of the human person, with its freedom to commit and its responsibility to society. There is a way, a humanist way for Europe, and that's what he chose. His fight first was to reconcile with itself a society that was blocked through trade unions, CFTC, CFDT. Politics was not important, was not among his youth passions. The prognosis of the Tour de France, basketball games, jazz, and God. Yes, those were his main interests, but not politics. When he was a teenager, he thought of cinema, of journalism, and political leaders were seen as responsible for the defeat of 1940, for the defeat of the French people on fleeing on roads. But fate was otherwise. He could reconcile. He was capable, and he became a decision maker. And increasingly, he went further up in the Bank of France. He also worked within its trade union. And at night, after working at the bank, he would open up his books and study the theories of economists and fighting his way through competitions. He went to the Social and Economic Council, and Éric Massé was attracted by him and hired him. And he went on reconciling his aspirations as a leftist and also as a Gaullist who wanted to plump for regeneration. He was selected in 1969 by Chaban-Delmas, rather than a plumping for a left that seemed to be defeated for a long time. He wanted a new society. He was the first social advisor at Matignon. That's where he found how he could develop his thinking, to modernize society, to place justice within labor, to develop a contractual policy based on collective agreements, so that those who didn't have the opportunity to learn could keep on learning during their life and participate in the first line of lifelong education. Always bent on reconciling, conciliation, reconciling the French with work to show them that it was a way to emancipation, knowledge, lifelong training, so that everyday working should not be slavery, should not be just physical work, but also a way to go further up, to reconcile even further. He joined the Socialist Party in 1974, at that time of opening, and then he plumped for the social market economy to aim for an alternative. 10 years on, he also went away from clannish fights. With others, he wanted to bring his own Christian blood to the impetus of 1974 and further reform. Jacques Delors did not believe in the so-called great knights. He believed in passions, in negotiations every day, in social dialogue, beyond political opposition. And then in 1981, that was when his camp won, when there was a strong impetus and also strong economic upheavals, when the franc was devalued on 2 occasions. He became the Ministry for Economy and Finance, and he was holding firm, and he launched efficient anti-inflation policies. He went along with the major nationalizations with the budgetary rigor. And the next year, he lost his beloved son, journalist Jean-Paul Delors. That was a frightening tragedy, but he faced up to it. And with his wife, he had a proper companion. And then he was proud of Martine, his daughter. And then Clémentine, his granddaughter, was a joy. And he found the strength to hold up. And the next week, he was back within the Council of Ministers. He was devastated, but he was still present, always present. Because at the time, those were difficult times for France. The War of Two Roses divided the Socialist Party, and the country hesitated between 2 journeys. After the 30 years of growth, skeptics wanted Mitterrand to move away from constraints, and people would come at night to predict untoward fate to the Republic. But he was there again, hand in hand with Pierre Mauroy. He fought like a lion with others to defend his European vision of economy, to prove doomsayers wrong, and to keep France within the common project. That was one of his major works of reconciliation, 1983, where at that decisive time he wanted to reconcile government socialism with the social market economy, to reconcile France with Europe, to make possible the European ideals without yielding anything, to keep with realities. In 1985, the president of the Economic Commission was vacant. There was a vacancy, and his candidacy when he was a mayor of Clichy, and he was building on the strength of European MP, he ran for the presidency. So many decades after the Great War, he was the First World War, and he was the son of a foot soldier, and he had the possibility to control the fate of Europe. And he wanted the past to be recognized, and he wanted the future to be a potential promise, to a reconciliation of peoples, so that no life be done away by the blindness of people. He wanted Europe to reconcile with its future. The current face of Europe was contributed to by Jacques Delors, feature per feature, with the constant support of Mitterrand and Kohl for several decades. In this Europe, he said, this Europe belongs to us as much as we belong to her, and we have to keep the fight. This is a legacy where, for the last 30 years, his three institutes watched the freeing of people and goods, the single market with all the players of civil society, the Europe of social dialogue, reconciliation of unions and employers, monetary union, euro, the central European Bank, the Europe of growth and solidarity that would leave no one behind, supporting unprivileged regions with subsidies, a Europe which is aware of the need to broaden and to deepen, that sees the way forward as a string of agreements. A Europe that needs to reform in order to be still free in its action. A Europe that sees economic, social, and environmental duties as a responsibility for sovereignty, and also a philosophical unity, the Erasmus program, which he made so that the youth of Europe could meet each other and understand each other and find a way forward. A united Europe in diversity, reunited Europe, doing away with the Iron Curtain, welcoming the countries of Central and Eastern Europe and Baltic Europe. It is not often that our Europe has made so much progress. And with his teams and his companions, several leaders attending today can pay tribute to him. And we know also that several European leaders were kind enough to come today, and I'd like to thank them for this. And with them, he made a lot of progress for our continent. During those years, he was all over the place. He would find resources to come and see every member state. He traveled 180 times a year, and he would find compromises and necessary agreements. He was a leader among leaders, the eighth member of the G7, and he was the conscience of those leaders. He was always modern in that trifecta, competition, solidarity, and cooperation in order to strengthen Europe, a more sovereign, more united, and stronger Europe. Thanks to him, Europe has an identity. Jacques Delors never was president of the French Republic. On the 11th of December 1994, he said no to running for president of France. He looked at he looked at the Frenchmen in the eyes, who were people who were expecting him. But in his words, in his silence, we knew how he had been wounded and how he was always faithful to his ideals. And the future of the community was always foremost. And once again, his sense of duty led him astray from what was expected of him. And this sense of doing his duty, which can be found in the Ode to Joy, the European anthem, this feeling of duty well accomplished, that was always in the forefront of his thought and his behavior. Several months on, in his office in Brussels, those hands that shaped Europe wrote history, signed decisive treaties, and brought people together. Those hands have closed his files and restored order. Carefully, as he did everything, he brought those familiar things together. A few examples, a few copies of L'Équipe's daily reading, a lamp, a Medal of Honor, one of the memories of the harshest strikes he participated in, the poster of Citizen Kane, and a photograph of one of his friends. All of this, he brought it with himself wherever he went. But he left behind something bigger that cannot be moved, that is intangible, a French imprint and a European imprint, the potential for a social democracy of liberation, the possibility of a united Europe, Schengen Europe, Erasmus, Maastricht Europe, brought together by common values from Compostela to Balkans, from all over Europe, and the strength to change hope into history. I made a mistake. On the 27th of December last year, his journey was not brought to an end. No, Jacques Delors just gave us a relay. For many of you have taken up the slack, and you are fighting at the top of our European institutions, at the top of your governments, your states, of your countries. This journey, his journey, will go on. It is a difficult journey. It is a journey on peaks, away from the road of facility, always in sense of imbalance. And economic strength and social justice are brought together. There's a sense of balance between reality and ideals, a reconciliation between the two. That was the unquiet path of that great Frenchman. That's what he followed, that honest European man, Jacques Delors. Long live Europe. Long live the Republic. Long live France.
French President Emmanuel Macron paying homage to Jacques Delors, who passed away in late December at the age of 98. He served 3 times as European Commission president, longer than anyone else. Emmanuel Macron said he reconciled Europe with its future, and thanks to Jacques Delors, Europe has its identity, that the journey Jacques Delors began continues.
Détachement interarmé. Garde à vous. Présentez. Armes. Aux morts.